The trade station called Harmony's Rest floated in the cold darkness between stars. It was old and busy, filled with hundreds of alien species buying and selling goods from across the galaxy. In one of the smaller docking bays, a human ship sat quietly. The words Morning Star were painted on its side in faded letters. Captain Park stood on the bridge of his ship, drinking bitter coffee from a metal cup. He was 43 years old, with hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too much of space. His crew was small, only 12 people, and they made their living carrying cargo between stations that bigger ships ignored. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Only 30 years had passed since first contact. Most aliens thought of humans as strange creatures from a dangerous planet. They were tolerated but not respected. They were allowed to trade but not trusted with important matters. Sat at her communication station, her headphones pressed against her ears. She was young, only 26, but she was the best communications officer Park had ever worked with. Her fingers moved across her controls as she filtered through the endless noise of space. Then she heard something that made her blood turn cold. "Captain," she said, her voice shaking, "I am picking up a distress signal. It is weak, but it is real." Park walked over to her station. "From where?" "The system, 3 days' travel from here," played the message through the speakers. The voice that filled the bridge was soft and musical but filled with terror. It spoke in the common galactic language, begging for help. There was under attack. The Dominion had come with hundreds of warships. They were killing everyone. Park knew about the. They were gentle beings with 6 limbs and large dark eyes. They had no weapons, no army. Their entire civilization was built around healing others and making peace between enemies. Every species in the galaxy owed them something. "Send this to the Galactic Collective Emergency Channel," Park ordered. Did as he asked. They waited for 2 hours. Finally, a response came from the collective headquarters. A calm alien voice explained that a committee would discuss the matter. A decision would be made in 3 standard cycles. 3 cycles, almost 2 Earth weeks. "They will be dead by then," whispered. Park said nothing. He walked to the observation window and stared out at the stars. Behind him, his crew gathered on the bridge, having heard the news. Engineer O, a large man with hands from years of work, spoke first. "The collective is not going to help them. They never help anyone fast enough." "They are too strong," said another crew member. "No one wants to fight them." Park turned around. "Search our old records, the colony ship Soul's Hope. What happened to it?" Looked confused, but she did as he asked. After several minutes, she found the file. Her eyes went wide as she read it. 52 years ago, the Soul's Hope suffered engine failure in deep space. They sent a distress call, but no human ships were close enough to help. They were going to die. She paused. A medical vessel found them. They repaired their ship and gave them food and medicine. They saved 3,000 human lives and asked for nothing in return. The bridge was silent. Park set down his coffee cup. They saved our people when no one else would. Now they are dying and the galaxy is going to let it happen. He looked at each member of his crew. "I am not going to let it happen." "Captain," said slowly, "we are a cargo ship. We have no weapons. What can we do?" Park smiled, but there was no happiness in it. "We are not going alone." He walked to station. "Open a channel on the old Earth emergency frequency, the one all human ships still monitor." His hands trembled as she worked. "Channel open, Captain." Park leaned close to the microphone. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "This is Captain Park of the merchant vessel Morning Star. I am broadcasting to all human ships in range. They is under attack by the Dominion. The Galactic Collective will not help. They will be destroyed." He paused. 52 years ago, they saved 3,000 humans on the Soul's Hope. They asked for nothing. Now they are asking for help, and we are the only ones listening. I am going to answer them. If you remember what we owe, if you remember what it means to be human, then join me. Coordinates to follow. He ended the transmission. For a long moment, nothing happened. The bridge was silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Then's console began to light up. One signal, then another, then 5 more. 10, 20. "Captain," she said, her voice breaking with emotion, "they are responding. Human ships are responding." Park watched the signals multiply on the screen. Cargo ships, mining vessels, a passenger transport, 2 old military frigates that should have been scrapped years ago. They came from every direction, from stations and colonies scattered across the sector. By the end of the hour, 47 human ships had answered the call. Laughed in disbelief. "They are really coming." Park nodded. He looked at his crew, at their faces filled with fear and determination. They were not soldiers. They were merchants and engineers and pilots. But they were human, and humans did not forget their debts. "Set course for the system," Park ordered. "We have a war to fight." The Morning Star's engines roared to life, and the ship jumped into hyperspace. Behind it, 46 other vessels followed. The galaxy had abandoned but humanity had not. The rendezvous point was a patch of empty space, far from any star or station. One by one, the human ships arrived, dropping out of hyperspace in flashes of blue light. They were not beautiful ships. They were old and worn, covered in patches and repairs. But they had come. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Morning Star and watched them gather. Cargo haulers with rusted hulls. Mining vessels with drilling equipment still attached. A passenger ship that had changed course mid-journey, its confused travelers now volunteers in an unexpected war. Then came the military ships. 2 frigates, the officially decommissioned but kept running by crews who could not let them die. And finally, something that made Park's heart stop. A battleship, old and massive, its hull from battles fought decades ago. The name on its side read, "That is impossible," whispered. "That was supposed to be destroyed 20 years ago." A transmission came through. The face that appeared on the screen was that of an old woman with white hair and sharp eyes. She wore a worn military uniform with Admiral stars on the collar. "Captain Park," she said, "I am Admiral. I heard your message." Park bowed his head in respect. Everyone knew Admiral. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet during the border wars. She was supposed to be retired, living quietly on some peaceful colony. Instead, she was here, aboard a ghost ship. "Admiral, I did not expect anyone of your rank to answer." Smiled. It was not a warm smile. "I kept the hidden because I knew a day like this would come. The galaxy thinks humanity has gone soft. They are about to learn how wrong they are." Within hours, all 47 ships had gathered. Captains and crew members met aboard for a council of war. The ship's cargo bay was filled with humans of all ages, all backgrounds. Merchants stood next to miners. Engineers argued with pilots. There was no formal structure, no chain of command, just people who had answered a call. Admiral stood on a raised platform, her voice carrying across the crowd. "The Dominion has 300 warships around We have 47 vessels, most of which have never fired a weapon. By any normal calculation, we should run away and hide." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But we are not normal. We are humans, and the galaxy has forgotten what that means." She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared behind her. It showed a blue and green planet, the third from a yellow sun. Earth. R is classified as a Category 12 death planet, the most dangerous rating possible. For millions of years, our ancestors survived ice ages that froze the entire world. They fought predators with teeth the size of knives. They lived through plagues that killed half the population. They crossed oceans in wooden boats and climbed mountains that touched the sky. Engineer O leaned close to Park. "Where is she going with this?" Continued. "The other species in this galaxy evolved on gentle worlds with stable climates and few dangers. They cannot survive radiation. They cannot handle temperature changes. They cannot withstand more than 2 or 3 times their normal gravity, but we can. She changed the display. Now it showed human physiology compared to other galactic species. A human can survive injuries that would kill any other being. Our bodies heal faster. Our minds adapt faster. We can function without sleep for days. We can operate in conditions that would be instant death for others. Her eyes burned with fierce pride. The galaxy calls us as an insult, but it is not an insult. It is a warning they forgot to heed. Dr. Shin, who had volunteered her services, stepped forward. She was a small woman with glasses and quiet voice, but she had spent her career studying alien species. They have a weakness, she explained. They coordinate through a hive mind, a psychic link that connects all their soldiers. If we can disrupt that link, they become confused and slow. Also, their biology cannot handle rapid temperature changes. Extreme heat or cold will kill them faster than weapons. Admiral nodded. Our ships have another advantage. Human vessels are built for human crews. Our acceleration systems can reach forces that would turn any other species into liquid. Our ships can move in ways that cannot predict or follow. Pilot Bay, a young woman with short hair and nervous energy, raised her hand. But our ships are not warships. Most of us do not have real weapons. Then we will make weapons, said O. He held up showing technical diagrams. I have spent the last day working on this. Mining lasers can be modified to cut through armor. Cargo containers can be turned into missiles. Our drilling equipment can breach their hulls. The crowd murmured with growing excitement. They had come expecting to die. Now they were beginning to believe they might win. Admiral raised her hand for silence. I will not lie to you. Many of us will not survive this battle. They are still stronger and more numerous, but we are not fighting to win a war. We are fighting to save people who once saved us. We are fighting because no one else will. She looked across the crowd, meeting the eyes of captains and crew members alike. The galaxy thinks we are weak because we smile and shake hands. They think we are soft because we do not conquer and destroy. Today we remind them what breeds. Today we show them why humanity survived. The cargo bay erupted in cheers. Engineers rushed to modify weapons. Pilots studied attack patterns. Doctors prepared for casualties they knew were coming. Park watched it all with quiet wonder. These were ordinary people, merchants and workers and travelers, but give them a cause worth fighting for and they became something else entirely. They became human. The fleet departed 12 hours later. 47 ships jumped into hyperspace, racing toward a battle they could not win. Behind them, the galaxy watched in confusion. They would not be confused for long. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace and flew straight into hell. Captain Park gripped the armrests of his chair as the morning star shook from the transition. He saw It was a beautiful planet, covered in blue oceans and green forests, but now it was surrounded by death. 300 warships formed a massive ring around the world. They were ugly vessels built for destruction, covered in spikes and weapons. Between them, harvester ships were already descending toward the surface. They did not simply conquer worlds. They harvested them. They took living beings and turned them into fuel for their machines. They had no fleet, no weapons, no defense. They were dying. A transmission crackled through every frequency. The voice was cold and mechanical, the sound of a commander speaking through translation software. Unknown vessels, you have entered Dominion space. Leave now or be destroyed. You have 1 minute to comply. Looked at Park with fear in her eyes. Captain, what do we do? Park stood up from his chair. He walked to the communications panel and opened a channel, but instead of speaking, he played something else. It was an old recording, a song from Earth, a traditional Korean melody, slow and beautiful, filled with longing and defiance. The kind of song humans sang when they faced impossible odds. The music floated through space, reaching every ship, human and alike. Then Admiral's voice cut through. All ships' attack patterns show them what can do. The human fleet moved. What happened next was impossible. Human ships accelerated at speeds that should have killed their crews. They twisted and spun in patterns that no tactical computer could predict. They flew directly into the formation, weaving between warships like fish through a net. Pilot Bay led a squadron of cargo shuttles that had been modified for combat. Her hands flew across her controls as she pushed her ship to its limits. The G-forces pressed her into her seat like a giant hand, but she did not slow down. A human could survive forces that would turn other species into paste. She intended to prove it. "Stay on my wing," she called to her squadron. "Do not think like a pilot, think like a human. We survived ice ages and predators. These bugs are nothing." Her squadron dove through a gap in the line, their modified mining lasers cutting through enemy armor. 2 cruisers exploded in balls of fire. A third tried to turn to face them, but human ships moved too fast. They were gone before they could aim. On the Morning Star, Engineer O worked in the cargo bay, surrounded by explosions and chaos. He had turned their entire cargo into weapons. Containers filled with industrial chemicals became bombs. Mining equipment became missiles. Every piece of the ship that could be thrown at the enemy was thrown. "Fire everything," Park ordered, "everything we have." The Morning Star had no real weapons, but it did not need them. Launched container after container at each one detonating against their shields, weakening them for the ships that followed. Then the main weapons failed. A blast had hit the power conduits and the ship went dark. Specialist Han Myra, a quiet woman who worked in the cargo section, had an idea. She ran to the manual controls and opened the cargo bay doors. Outside, a cruiser was approaching, ready to finish them off. "What are you doing?" shouted. "Giving them a present," Myra replied. She hit the emergency release. 5,000 tons of refined ore exploded out of the cargo bay, directly into the path of the approaching cruiser. The ship tried to turn, but it was too slow. The ore tore through its hull like 1,000 bullets. The cruiser broke apart and died. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships fought with everything they had. When their weapons failed, they used their engines. When their engines failed, they used their fists. A mining vessel rammed directly into a destroyer, its crew evacuating seconds before impact. A passenger ship used its emergency beacon to blind enemy sensors. A cargo hauler released its entire fuel supply into the path of pursuing fighters, then ignited it with a flare. They had never faced anything like this. Their hive mind gave them perfect coordination. Every soldier knew what every other soldier was thinking. Their tactics were flawless, tested over centuries of conquest, but they could not understand humans. Human ships did not coordinate through signals they could intercept. Human crews made decisions in split seconds, each person acting on instinct and training. There was no pattern to predict, no mind to read. And humans would not stop. Ships destroyed human vessels, but the humans kept fighting. Ships with broken engines continued to fire. Ships with dying crews continued to fly. The killed and killed, but the humans refused to surrender. The commander felt something it had never felt before: fear. "Why do they not retreat?" it demanded. "Their fleet is destroyed. Why do they keep fighting?" No one could answer. They did not understand sacrifice. They did not understand stubbornness. They did not understand that for humans, running away was never an option when someone needed help. Admiral's voice echoed across the fleet, calm despite the chaos. "All ships, focus fire on the harvester vessels. Stop them from reaching the surface. They are counting on us." The human fleet, battered and burning, turned as one toward the harvesters. They had come to save they would not fail. Even if it killed them all. On the surface of Sergeant led her small team through a nightmare. The harvesting facility was a place of horrors. Metal corridors dripped with strange fluids. Machines hummed with terrible purpose. And everywhere, the gentle were being processed, turned from living beings into components for technology. Had been a cargo security officer before today. Her team was made of volunteers from different ships. None of them were soldiers, but when the call came for a ground rescue mission, they had stepped forward. "Keep moving," she ordered. "We find survivors, we get them out, nothing else matters." The facility's atmosphere was toxic to most species. The radiation levels would kill an unprotected being in minutes. The gravity was twice Earth normal. For the guards who had tried to fight, these conditions were instant death. For humans, they were Tuesday. His team pushed through corridors that would have been impassable for anyone else. Their suits protected them from the worst of the toxins, but they could feel the radiation burning through. It did not matter. They would deal with the sickness later, if there was a later. They found the first survivors in a holding cell. 30, huddled together in fear. Their large, dark eyes went wide when they saw humans. "You came," one of them whispered. "You actually came." Nodded. "We remember what you did for us. Now move. We are getting you out of here." In orbit, the battle was turning into a massacre. The human fleet was dying. Only 19 ships remained operational. The rest were destroyed or drifting, their crews dead or evacuated. The Still had over 200 warships. The math was simple. The humans could not win. But they had succeeded in one thing. The Harvester ships had been stopped, not destroyed but delayed. The on the surface had time. Admiral stood on the burning bridge of the, half her crew was dead. The ship's weapons were gone. The engines were failing, but she was still giving orders. "All ships form a defensive line around the planet. Nothing gets through to the surface. Nothing." Her first officer, a young man named, looked at her with desperation. "Admiral, we cannot hold. We need to retreat." Turned to face him. Blood ran down her face from a wound on her forehead, but her eyes were clear and sharp. "Retreat to where? There is nowhere to go. There is nothing behind us but the people we came to save." She put her hand on his shoulder. "We knew this might happen when we answered the call. We came anyway. That is what makes us human." She returned to her command chair. The shook as another blast hit its hull. Fires burned on every deck. The ship was dying, but it was dying slowly, buying time with every second. Communications officer worked frantically at her station. Her console was sparking, half destroyed, but she refused to stop. She had an idea. "Admiral, I think I can boost our signal through the jamming. If I route it through the emergency beacon and use the remaining power from the secondary reactor." "Do it," ordered. His fingers flew across her controls. The ship groaned around her. Explosions echoed through the corridors. But she kept working, kept fighting, kept hopping. The signal burst through the jamming like a spear of light. It reached the Galactic Collective's emergency channel, broadcast across 100 systems at once. "This is the human fleet. We are defending we are dying, but we will not stop. To anyone who can hear this, we need help. We are not asking you to save us. We are asking you to save them. Please, someone, anyone." The message ended, slumped in her chair, exhausted. For a long moment nothing happened. The battle continued. Human ships burned, the advanced. Then a response came. It was from the Empire, one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had watched the crisis and done nothing, calculating that intervention was not worth the cost. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He was a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, his expression unreadable. "Human vessel, how are you still fighting? You were outnumbered 6-1. Your fleet should have been destroyed in the first hour." Admiral laughed. It was a broken sound, the laugh of someone who had nothing left to lose. "We are, Admiral. We do not know how to quit." There was silence for a moment. Then he said something that no one expected. "For 300 years they have healed our sick, negotiated our treaties, and asked nothing in return. For 300 years we have called them friends, And when they cried for help, we did nothing." He paused. "Today, a species we barely know crossed the galaxy to fight an unwinnable battle for them. Humans shame us." He straightened in his chair, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of command. "The fleet is mobilizing. We will arrive in 2 hours. Hold the line, humans, we are coming." The transmission ended. On this burning bridge smiled. "You heard him, 2 hours, we can do 2 hours." The commander saw the transmission too. It saw other fleets beginning to move. A dozen other species who had done nothing were now racing to help. The humans had not just fought a battle. They had shamed an entire galaxy into action. "Destroy them," the commander ordered. "Destroy them all before reinforcements arrive." The fleet surged forward. The final battle began. Admiral stood on her dying bridge and faced the enemy. Around her, the last human ships formed a line, broken and burning but unbroken in spirit. "All ships," she broadcast, her voice calm and steady. "It has been an honor." The turn toward the largest warship and accelerated. Its engines screamed with the effort. Its hull began to tear apart from the strain. But it did not stop. The fleet arrived in a wave of silver light. 200 warships dropped out of hyperspace and tore into the formation. Behind them came and a dozen other species. The galaxy had finally awakened. The already weakened by hours of fighting the impossible humans broke and ran. Their perfect hive mind coordination shattered into chaos. Ships fled in every direction, pursued by the combined might of civilizations they had terrorized for centuries. The battle was over. They were saved. On the surface, Sargent led the last group of survivors out of the harvesting facility. 300 rescued from certain death. Her team was exhausted, sick from radiation, barely able to stand. But they had done it. An elder approached. Her 6 arms trembled as she reached out to touch the human's face. "You came for us," the elder said, tears streaming from her large dark eyes. "You did not have to come, you did not even know us, but you came." Smiled weakly. "Someone saved our people once, a long time ago. We were just returning the favor." In orbit, the cost of victory became clear. Of the 47 human ships that had answered the call, only 11 remained. 2,316 humans had died in the battle. Admiral was among them. They had rammed the flagship, destroying both ships in a final act of defiance. Captain Park stood on the damaged bridge of the Morning Star and watched the rescue operations. Human survivors were being pulled from wreckage. Healers, the same beings the humans had come to save, now worked desperately to save their saviors. Sat beside him, her arm in a makeshift sling. "We did it," she said quietly. "I cannot believe we actually did it." Park nodded. "We did, but the cost was worth it." Finished. "Every person who came here knew what might happen. They came anyway. That is the point, is it not?" 1 month later, Captain Park stood before the Galactic Council. The great chamber was filled with representatives from every major civilization. Beings of all shapes and sizes watched as a single human walked to the speaking platform. The council's speaker, a massive creature with 100 tentacles, addressed him first. "Captain Park, you and your people did something unprecedented. You answered a distress call meant for no one in particular. You fought a war that was not yours. You died for a species you barely knew." The speaker's many eyes focused on him. "The council wishes to understand. Why?" Park was quiet for a moment. He thought about Admiral, who had given her life without hesitation. He thought about the crews who had followed him into impossible battle. He thought about the elder who had cried at the sight of human rescuers. "Do you know what it is?" he finally asked. The council murmured. Everyone knew what it was. A planet so dangerous that intelligent life should never have evolved there. Earth was the most famous example. For millions of years, my ancestors lived on a world that tried to kill them every single day. Ice ages, predators, plagues, disasters. Everything on our planet was designed to end us. Park paused. But we survived. Do you know how? No one answered. We survived because we helped each other. When the ice came, we shared our fires. When the predators attacked, we fought together. When the plague struck, we cared for our sick even when it meant risking our own lives. His voice grew stronger. We did not survive because we were the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we refused to abandon each other. He looked across the assembled representatives. Some were uncomfortable. Others were fascinated. They sent a distress call. They were dying and they asked for help. The galaxy calculated the costs and decided it was not worth the risk. But humans do not calculate like that. We do not weigh lives against resources. We hear someone crying for help and we answer. Always. No matter the cost. He straightened his shoulders. You call us like it is an insult, but death taught us the only lesson that matters. Alone, everything dies. Together, we have a chance. That is why we came. That is why we fought. That is why we will always answer. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, clapping began. It spread, growing louder, until the entire council was applauding. The representative, tears flowing freely, rose from her seat. "We owe humanity a debt that can never be repaid. From this day forward, our worlds are your worlds. Our knowledge is your knowledge. Our friendship is eternal." Other species added their voices. Trade agreements were offered. Alliance proposals were made. In a single day, humanity went from tolerated newcomers to respected members of the galactic community. But Park was not thinking about politics or alliances. He was thinking about the people who had not survived, the crews who would never go home, the families who would never see their loved ones again. 6 months later, a new ship launched from Earth's orbital shipyard. It was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built, combining human engineering with medical technology and weapon systems. Its name was painted on the hull in proud letters, Admiral. Dr. Shin stood on its bridge as the ship prepared for its first mission. She had been offered command after her heroic work during the battle. Her mission was simple: patrol the galaxy and answer any distress call from any species, anywhere. Served as her communications officer, listening to the endless chatter of space. "There is a message coming in," reported. "A small colony on the edge of known space. They are asking for help with a plague they cannot identify." Dr. Shin smiled. "Set course, maximum speed." The Admiral jumped into hyperspace, racing toward another crisis, another chance to help. Behind it, the galaxy watched. They had learned something important from the humans. They had learned that the measure of a civilization was not its technology or its wealth or its military power. The measure of a civilization was how it answered when the weak cried out for help. The humans had shown them the answer. Always, no matter the cost. Because that was what it meant to be human. And the galaxy would never forget.